if you are a New Yorker and you're using your brain right now, you're not voting for Zohran Mamdani. You're voting for a U-Haul to Florida to get to get out of town.
That's true. That is true.
They're the only people that aren't weighing in. U-Haul, Ryder, they're making hunks moving junk. All those people, all those moving companies are about to make some big scatone if Mamdani becomes the next mayor. But he's living in a fantasy world, very evocative of the one we're getting out of Kamala Harris on this book tour right now. I bring the two of them up because there's a larger conversation to be had in this hour about the way forward in this country. And the reason we've been harping on Mamdani, first and foremost, is because if socialism proves electable here in New York State, or at least on the mayor's race, it is going to have a future in national democratic politics because Mamdani is endorsed by AOC. AOC wants to run for president in 2028. So a win for him is a win for her. Okay, and that's a big concern.
AOC is a dope.
A lot of people feel that way. Okay, but a win for him being a win for her is a win for that far left wing of the party that wants to push climate change and the Green New Deal and everything else down your throat. And
we cannot run the greatest economy by putting fairy dust and unicorn urine in our cars.
And he's not wrong. Senator Kennedy said that. The fuel range on unicorn urine is astonishingly low. You'd think it would be more efficient given the wings and the horn more aerodynamically fit, but it's not. Yeah, I don't know that you get a full 2 miles a gallon on unicorn urine as luck would have it. And that's not going to work when you're trying to power an economy and a fleet of vehicles as big as ours. So with all due respect to the unicorn urine people, it's not going to get the job done. But as it pertains to Mamdani, he's not going to get the job done either. So I want to give you a couple of things really quick. Mamdani said in a clip that made the rounds over the weekend, his plan to pay for all of this pie-in-the-sky nonsense would be to raise state taxes on the rich.
Are you stupid or something?
And I say that why? Because the mayor of New York City does not have the authority to raise state taxes.
He knows what he's talking about.
So I don't know if he believes he's going to get Kathy Hochul to do it, but the point is that would not fall within his purview, nor would his advocacy for the gay community. I mean, you've heard this tweet to death by now. We do not need an investigation to know that the NYPD is anti-queer and racist. What we need to do is defund the police. Those are his words. That was his tweet. And he wants you to believe now he's evolved, he's moved on, he's apologizing to police on a case-by-case basis. No group apology, but he wants you to believe he's out there apologizing to individual cops. I mean, come on.
That is balderdash and hogwash and
Nobody believes that. But to take it a step further, the whole anti-queer, well, you can't be anti-queer, NYPD. First of all, they're not even remotely close. Second of all, this dude got married in Uganda. Uganda criminalizes homosexuality by death. Like if you have a gay wedding in Uganda, they don't play Here Comes the Bride. They play Here Comes the Cops. You got to go, player. You're about to get thrown off this bridge you just walked across to take photos with the photographer. You know, when they take those pictures out by the pond. Okay, in Uganda, it doesn't end that way. It doesn't end with them kissing under the gazebo. It ends with in a pair of cement shoes. Not good. Okay, so Mamdani, obviously, it's a thing. And it's a thing because there's a lot of money funding a campaign that has a huge footprint on TikTok, and he's catering to a lot of woke white people who think they know what's best for the minority community. Okay, they're not necessarily people that are widely affected by what goes on in New York City because a lot of them have houses all over the place. Martha's Vineyard, Greenwich, Connecticut, out in Sag Harbor. It's like the people in California who still vote liberal. They vote liberal because what the government ultimately does doesn't really affect them. They're not hanging out on Hollywood Boulevard getting chased by a wizard with no pants on. They're in Bel Air. They're in Beverly Hills. They used to be in the Pacific Palisades or maybe even Malibu. Sadly, the mismanagement of the wildfires has displaced a lot of those people. But the vast majority of them still plan to vote liberal. Okay, hopefully my man Steve Hilton can turn that bus around. But the fact remains, a lot of the people powering Mamdani or a lot of the people that are voting for a guy like Gavin Newsom out in California when he survived his recall, are a lot of the people who voted for Kamala Harris. And she's out there right now on a book tour, doing that same fantasy thing the rest of them are. Okay? Kamala's book, as you know, a historic memoir, because it is the first book to begin in chapter 11. Hey, there it is. Jimmy's got jokes. Here she is again, saying that 2024 was the tightest race of the 21st century, and Trump has no mandate.
You can't handle the truth.
But here it is, clip 12.
It was the tightest, closest presidential election in the 21st century. He does not have a mandate. That is not a mandate. That is not a mandate.
Oh, Kamala Harris is...
Kamala is so stupid.
He does not have a mandate. Donald Trump won the popular vote. He won all 7 swing states. He won 2,600 counties. Kamala won just over 500. Okay, it was a blowout. When she says it was the closest election of the 21st century, okay, the year 2000, to be clear, was the closest election. 2016, second closest. 2020, third. Okay, in all of those instances, the person who won the popular vote in 2000 and 2016 didn't win the general. In 2020, Biden won both of those things technically.
It was stolen.
I don't believe that. I play that drop as a joke. I don't actually know that. Trump feels like it was rigged and they gave him the business and everything like that. But the point is, it's really hard to look at Joe Biden and believe this is the highest vote getter in the history of the United States of America.
I agree with that.
But regardless, okay, all 3 of those elections were closer than Kamala Harris. Okay, so in the 21st century, this idea that it wouldn't constitute a mandate. You understand, when Trump lost in 2020 to Biden, in the swing states he lost, no different than the swing states he won in 2016, these states were decided by literally like 10,000 votes or less in some instances. Kamala got blown out across the board and wound up losing all 7 swing states.
Kamala's awful with her weird laugh.
But the reason she'll get out there and say he doesn't have a mandate, it was the closest election in history, is because nobody in the party calls her out on it. Like, do you remember when she went on The View?
The View was awful.
But she said that on The View. She goes, it was the closest election in history. And they stood and cheered. And Ana Navarro goes, say that again, because he likes to tell people he has a mandate. He does not have a mandate. Now, in Ana Navarro's defense, she doesn't get asked on a lot of mandates. Okay, but the fact remains, if you lose every single swing state, you lose the popular vote, and you lose the counties nationally by 5-1, you got your kicked in that election. Okay, so this is all fantasy stuff. Just like the Mamdani thing is fantasy stuff. This is Mamdani talking about his strategy to keep businesses from leaving New York. This is 45 seconds that hurt my face. So why don't we go through this as a team, clip 11.
The money that we would raise to fund this agenda is in 2 parts. The first is by increasing the state's top corporate tax rate to match that of New Jersey. That would raise $5 billion. This would only impact the most profitable corporations, ones that are making millions of dollars in profits. The second is to increase...
And I'm sorry.
Please.
You're sure they're not going to leave it? They're not going to leave New York?
So the way that this tax works is it applies to any business doing business here. They could be located in Miami, but if they're doing business in New York, it applies to them. And the reason I believe everyone will keep doing business here is our economy is so large that if it was a country, it would rival the top countries in the world. The second is personal income taxes. I think that the top 1% of New Yorkers who make $1 million or more a year should pay 2% more in personal income taxes. That would raise $4 billion.
Oh, God.
You don't have a clue.
Good gosh, Zohran Mamdani. Again, can the mayor of New York City increase the state's corporate tax rate? So what he just said, I'll give the reporter credit. She pushed back. She goes, aren't you worried about them leaving? So at least she pressed. But she didn't press on the larger issue, which is he can't do that. So you're out there running and you go, wow, this guy has a plan. Okay. Listen, when I was 13, I had a plan. It was to bang the Swedish bikini team. All of them. Every single one of them.
What the hell did you just say?
But was my plan viable? Again. Okay, but that's what I mean. It's all pie in the sky nonsense. And the whole, well, if they're doing business in New York and they're located in Miami. So now you're telling me that you're going to raise taxes on corporations that aren't even located here? Like it really would decimate New York. But this is a huge problem for a lot of the Democrats right now as it pertains to electability. In little intellectual silos like New York City, Mamdani's going to be mayor. Like, I truly believe he's going to be mayor. And I like having Curtis Sliwa on, and we have laughs. But he's not even spending his campaign time attacking Mamdani. He's telling you he's going to have stray cats handle the rat problem. He's taking a lot of shots at Handsy Andy Cuomo, that whole thing. Andy! But, would he like to talk a lot of smack about Adams? He's a colorful, fun interview, Curtis Sliwa. But do I actually believe he's going to win the mayor's race?
Not even close.
I didn't say I don't want him to. So don't send me a bunch of angry hate mail. I'm just telling you, the way the electorate rolls here, he can win. And he's got such a big advantage on social media and TikTok and with the youth vote and the woke white people that vote in these things, that traditionally we don't get big turnout in New York City elections. You get maybe 20% turnout. And he's going to win. That is my belief. They're throwing some money behind Cuomo, but a lot of people haven't forgiven Cuomo for his handling of COVID and the fact that he didn't have the best office etiquette around the ladies.
You ever seen a grown man naked?
Okay. But no one's going to get screwed harder than New York if Mamdani wins, and I feel like he's gonna. And the larger issue becomes, what does that say for AOC's chances heading to 2028? And I think it does make her the front runner. You know, if you noticed, a lot of the establishment Democrats are keeping a healthy distance from Mamdani. They're not denouncing him. They're also not out there endorsing and campaigning with him around the clock. Okay, because deep down they know socialism isn't any good for the country. They don't truly believe it's any good for the long-term prosperity of our country. But if they see it win, okay, they're hell-bent enough on winning the next election that they'll embrace it if they think enough people believe in it. Remember, to win elected office, you don't actually have to follow through on anything you campaigned on. You just have to ride that wave back into office. So if Mamdani wins the mayor's race, which we expect him to, and that gives AOC sort of a bully pulpit in the 2028 primaries, and she becomes the national frontrunner and winds up somehow getting the nomination, then it really, for them, doesn't come down to their ability to sell socialism. It comes down to her ability to motivate her base while they tell you whoever she's running against is Hitler again, or some type of white nationalist existential threat to the elections or the safety of democracy or anything in between. That's kind of how the game works. So is Mamdani a fraud? Yeah, he's an idiot. He's never even had a job. He's like a hot topic president, but he's viable just the same. And when you got a guy like that, who's economically illiterate and has expressed past support for defunding the police, okay, if the solution to all of this is to raise taxes or talk Kathy Hochul into doing so, okay, it's going to drive most of the good people out of the state. And the only people left are going to be the idiots who voted for Mamdani and fled to Greenwich, Connecticut, and the people like you and me who get stuck with whatever chaos is left behind.
So y'all need to hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband because they raping everybody out here.
She's a superstar from Campus Reform. She's joining us via Zoom because she's a little bit of a diva when she's in studio. Hey, Emily Sturge, there you are.
It's great to be with you, Jimmy.
Remotely for my own safety.
Remotely.
You're actually a pretty low maintenance guest. Oddly enough, as you'd imagine, we have some nuts in here, but we consider you on the good list. Like if I was the radio version of Santa, you would be getting presents.
Oh, I appreciate that.
There you go. Yeah, what's good to know. And it's good to have you back on the show, even if remotely.
Thank you.
I know you're following the shutdown. What do the kids your age make of this? You're in 6th grade. What are they saying in the cafeteria?
Well, I'll tell you, it's been a lot of fun to see Generation Z's reaction to the Democrat shutdown because everybody's seen these memes. These memes are hilarious. I'll admit, on both sides, there's comedic gold. I will say the right is winning when it comes to the amount of views, the amount of likes, when you're seeing these hilarious memes all over Twitter. And Gen Z is loving it. Every single time I go on social media, I see peers, I see students on campuses spreading these hilarious photos that the administration is posting. Hakeem Jeffries in the sombrero. It's hilarious. It got 35 million views. And then you see his response only got like 1 million views. Just looking at the amount of views and likes, it's very obvious which side America's on with this government shutdown.
Yeah, I mean, if it all comes down to who has the best AI mariachi videos, the Republicans are going to win the midterms. If there's some other metric, it might get interesting. But I don't think there is another metric because everything they're talking about, even last week when they had that big Zoom meeting when the government shut down, there were 12 people on it. Like, that's embarrassing. There are more people trying to fix the camera shot for this interview right now than they had on their frickin' Zoom. So, like, do you think the Democrats have just kind of like, they're speaking such a unique language that no one else is keeping up with at this point and they don't know it?
Look, I mean, if we can't trust the Democrats to work their Zoom call, I don't know how anybody would trust them to run the country. I don't think they're helping themselves by hopping on these Zoom calls. But you know who they're helping is the Republicans, because every time they open their mouths, they create more Republican voters. And I mean, it's not just among independents, it's also among young people. I mean, we talked in the last election how many young people shifted to the right and turned out in massive numbers to vote for President Trump. But the more and more the Democrats speak, I think we're creating even more young voters. Add in social media, all of the hilarious posts that have come from the administration about this shutdown. I think it's very obvious to most Americans that it wasn't the administration, it's not Republicans that caused this shutdown. And I think the Democrats are setting themselves up for failure by firing up young people to turn out in even more historic numbers the next go around.
Yep, we're talking to Emily Sturge from Campus Reform. The one point of clarification, and we've brought this up on the show before, is I know the Democrats lost a lot of young male voters, but to be clear, a lot of those young male Democrats did become women.
Oh my goodness.
So how do you measure such a thing, Sturge? Do they have polling on that? And I don't know that they do. I don't know.
I don't know that they do. Oh my goodness, that would be hilarious to look into. But look, I think Republicans gained both young men and young women, definitely more young men. But there was a lot of young women that were impacted specifically by Democratic policies. Think of young women that were forced to share bathrooms or locker rooms with men. A lot of young women are sick of it. We're seeing a lot of young women turn to conservatism, turn to traditional family values because, you know, we're sick of the way that the left treats us. The left calls women inseminated persons, has all these disgusting names instead of just calling us what we are, which is women. The left instead would rather support men that dress up like women. So I think it's happening among both genders, among young people. People are sick of the treatment from the left.
I'll give you that. Emily Sturge is on the line. She is a birthing person from Campus Reform.
That's it. That's the one.
Speaking myself as a people who menstruate, I just wanted to, it's so funny because you're right. But the thing about it is when they got into the terminology thing, they were forcing terms on people who didn't want it. Like, do you remember Latinx? No Latino person called themselves Latinx.
Yes. And you know what? I've heard the left within the past week trying to speak to the Latino community, saying that they are all offended by the Hakeem Jeffries sombrero meme too. But look, I don't think the left understands what real people want. Real people don't want to be called woman with an X or Latino with an X. I think a lot of people are on the side of normalcy and common sense. That's why we have this president back in office, because they showed up to the polls in November and said we want common sense back. I don't think the left is going to win anyone over by using terms like inseminated person, Latinx, anything like that. And we actually saw the Democrats, a think tank, release a list of words not too long ago saying that the party needs to stop using those words because it's not resonating with anybody.
Yeah, it just sounds crazy because nobody talks that way. It's like oligarchy. You know how they love to say the oligarchy? Nobody you know would ever say the word oligarchy in a sentence. Do you know the only person who would is if Joe Biden was doing a commercial for the Olive Garden, he would accidentally call it oligarchy like 7 times. Come on down to the oligarchy. They'd be like, no, you can't do that. Cut. But no person is doing that. And I know you know that. So it's one of the, go ahead.
The only person I could think who would be using these terms are leftist professors in classrooms spitting out the same exact rhetoric that they're hearing from their TV screens, because that's exactly what professors are doing in the classroom. They're churning out the next generation of Democratic voters. When I was a student on campus, I heard terms like that in the classroom. I heard things like capitalism is evil and socialism or democratic socialism is the way to create a great society. That's what I heard when I was on campus. Those ideas are still infiltrating America's classrooms. But I will say, I think education slowly but surely is returning back to normalcy. And that's, of course, what I'm always reporting at Campus Reform.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. With schools back in session, right? And we're coming up on the anniversary of October 7th tomorrow. And we've had so many, like here in New York, I mean, you know, the way Columbia works, they've had so many problems with anti-Semitism and the back and forth with Trump. Are campuses calming down so far this semester? I mean, I know very little. My producer, Mikey, isn't allowed, near women that age. So what can you tell me?
Well, I'll tell you that we no longer see the tent encampments. We no longer see the protesters out there with their megaphones. For the most part, it looks like campuses have been cleaned up, but I will say that we still are seeing in the numbers, students are still reporting anti-Semitic instances on campuses. Just within the last week, the Trump administration released their new compact for higher education. They sent it out to 9 schools. It's basically guidelines to get schools back on track. One of the things in there is protections against anti-Semitism for students, but it's also common sense ideas like having grades actually represent grades, because the higher education system just hands out A's to everybody. Excellence has lost its meaning. So there's lots of reforms in these guidelines that the admin sent out. Things like you have to require SATs. You can't just judge students based on their race. You have to actually look at their scores. You can't just hire faculty based on their political ideology. Lots of common sense reforms. This administration is trying to give schools an opportunity to come back to sanity. So I will be tracking that, and we'll see if any schools join on that compact.
I will drink to that. Emily Sturge, we had a lot of fun today. I'm not saying you're allowed back in the studio yet. I'm still concerned about your behavior, but it's nice to have you on at a safe distance. Can we agree on that?
We can agree on that.
You're the best. We'll do it again soon. Have a great week. Okay, pal?
Thanks so much. You too.
The best. Emily Sturge, you know her, you love her. I lament constantly the loss of common culture in this country. Common culture means things we all consumed. Regardless of our ideological differences, there used to be things we all consumed and were on the same page as. And that allowed us to put differences aside, and it kind of served as a societal fabric that held the country together despite some passionate disagreements on key social issues. The fact remains, movies, which used to be a place we put our differences aside, no longer offer us common culture. Because now you might turn on the Oscars, and, Hollywood's been predominantly liberal for most of our lives, but they never used to give speeches about inequality and we should be building bridges and not walls, and kind of taking laughable positions, because to be clear, everybody telling you we should build bridges and not walls is going home to a house that's surrounded by a wall.
When you're right, you're right, and you're right.
Okay, I know it's just a, metaphor, or whatever the hell it is, but it's the same thing with the inequality lectures. It's like, dude, you're wearing a dress that costs more than my house. I don't really want to talk about inequality with you. But the point is, whether you agreed with them politically or not, once you inject that into the Oscars, there's going to be a significant percentage of the country that doesn't like it and tunes out, and you lose that common culture. And it would happen just the same if Clint Eastwood got on stage at the Oscars and gave that ridiculous speech that he gave about Obama at the 2012 National Convention. Do you remember when Clint Eastwood went on stage and he was speaking to the invisible chair, about Obama and doing that bit that kind of tanked. I mean,
there are white folks, and then there are ignorant mother like you.
And I love Clint Eastwood. I love, like, High Plains Drifter is probably a top 2 movie for me. Unforgiven, Any Which Way But Loose. Obviously, I've been showing Lincoln Dirty Harry since he was about 3 years old. I'm not kidding. All of those. I mean, I love Clint Eastwood's fantastic. Are you kidding me? I was in Carmel by the Sea, where he was mayor this summer. On my way down from Frisco to L.A., we went and checked it out. It was, a little too nice for me. Every restaurant I walked into, they were like, "Sorry, sir, we're not hiring." I was like, no, I got a job. I have a TV host. They're like, "All right, Vinny, get this guy out of here." This slob says he hosts a TV show. But the point is, I love Clint Eastwood. But the thing he did, the RNC was a disaster when he was making fun of Obama. But the point is, if he went on stage at the Oscars and did that, it would alienate a significant percentage of the country just the same. Sports did this. Okay, obviously it's a big deal in movies. I don't try to inject myself into the cancel side of conservative media. Okay, I don't like that this stuff goes on. Yes, you can vote for your feet, but I don't try to contribute to the divide, because the truth is, every time we go out, we go, "Oh, cancel this thing." That's one less thing we might all watch. And if it's, "Well, I don't watch it, so cancel it," that's no good either, because then you're becoming the thing they hate, that we hated about the left. But when it comes to Rob Reiner talking about Hollywood's job, he's really speaking to why Hollywood is tanking. Because I promise you, this is not its job. Okay, so let me play the clips, and then I'll kind of give you the bigger perspective here. Let's start with clip 16.
Make no mistake, we have a year before this country becomes a full-on autocracy and democracy completely leaves us. And we're looking at the election in 2026, and Donald Trump knows. He knows that in a free and fair election, he will lose. He will lose the House. The House will flip and will become into Democratic hands. There'll be committee chairs that'll be able to hold hearings. And this is the last thing he wants. So this little, these ICE agents and the National Guard, and now he's called the military in from all over the world to talk to them about, don't be surprised when polling booths are surrounded by American military in the guise of making sure that the elections are fair.
To keep it in Hollywood terms.
Such an idiot.
Seriously, Napoleon.
This is pretty much the worst video ever made.
I mean, come on, man. Trump is not canceling elections. Trump just had an election. He won in a landslide. Okay, are they concerned about the midterms? Yeah. But the idea that this is Hollywood's role, I want you to listen to the rest of this. This is clip 17.
We have to make the public absolutely aware that their democracy is being taken from them. And we have to do everything we can to make sure people understand that. People don't, it's a vague term, democracy. It's like, what does that mean? The Constitution, we don't know what that means. People care about their pocketbook issues, the price of eggs, they care about their health care, and they should. Those are the things that directly affect them. But if they lose their democracy, all of these rights, the freedom of speech, the freedom to pray the way you want, the freedom to protest and not go to jail, not be sent out of the country with no due process, all these things will be taken away from them. And we have to educate the public that this is what's happening right now in America.
To quote more Hollywood movies.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Guys, let's go over this point by point, okay? When he talks about democracy being taken from people, okay, Rob Reiner supports a party that jailed its political opponent. Jailed their political opponent. He didn't step in to say, hey, this is corrupting democracy. Okay, by definition, okay, the Democratic Party was guilty of undermining democracy and weaponizing its own justice system against a political opponent, because we had never once indicted a president in a 247-year history of the country. going into our 247th year. By the end of that year, Trump was facing 91 different counts of indictment. Okay, there were multiple states trying to remove his name from the ballot, meaning if you support Trump, you get no democracy. You can't vote for who you want. When he says, oh, people don't get it. If they lose their democracy, these freedom of speech rights. Yeah, the Democrats. What did Google just admit? That the Democrats made them take down posts and limit the speech of people at behest of the government. He says the freedom to pray the way they want. Yeah, the Democrats, sued people who were seeking religious exemptions to things like vaccines and gay marriage and stuff. Whether I agree with it or not, they were taking away their religious position, and it was his party leading that charge. Okay, and this idea that they just continue to speak to the consumer as if they don't know any better, that these guys are smarter. We've got to explain it because democracy is a vague term. If we don't explain it to people, we won't know. No, that's not the issue, Rob Reiner. The issue is nobody believes your horse anymore. That's the bigger issue. Okay, Trump is not canceling democracy. They're not canceling the midterms. You're not voting at gunpoint. I mean, unless you live in like Portland or Chicago, but that's not going to be because of the government. That's just going to be because of the local crime threat they can't get under control. But stick with me, okay? Because for Hollywood, I'm not here to even get into this debate about politics. Yes, I can disprove everything the guy just said. He's an idiot. There's a reason he was known as Meathead on All in the Family. But when he tells you Hollywood's job is to educate America, is that what you were doing when you made Spinal Tap? You were educating America on democracy. Is that what Stand By Me was? Because I thought it was like a coming-of-age tale about wanting to go see a dead body. It's so stupid that people attach this level of self-importance to what they do. But the reason it happens, and this is specific to TV, specific to movies, okay? People from old Hollywood are horrible, horrific to the little people. He has a similar reputation, but I don't even want to make it about that. The point is, they're surrounded by so many people who co-sign any stupid idea they have because they don't want to watch the volcano erupt. They're surrounded by studios that placate a lot of petty grievances because if the guy's films are profitable, they'll put up with pretty much any indignity they have to suffer to keep the content churning out. Okay, but now Rob Reiner is getting to that stage in his career where he's kind of a laughingstock on Twitter. I don't doubt somebody's giving him a thumbs up over on Blue Sky, which is like a group therapy session for woke, white, liberal, air quote, journalists. Okay, but the reality is Hollywood's job, its actual job, is to entertain us on such a profound level that we forget half the guys we're watching are closeted gay Scientologists and half of the girls got naked in order to get hired. I mean, come on.
What the hell did you just say?
The truth. Okay, Hollywood, if you go back and look up Marilyn Monroe when she signed her biggest motion picture deal and got caught on a hot mic saying, well, that's the last you-know-what that I'm going to have to you-know-what. Marilyn Monroe's actual words.
I love it when you talk dirty.
That's the last smurf I'm going to have to smurf, to borrow from 80s euphemisms. But this is why Hollywood is losing. They've attached a sense of self-importance to what they do. And don't get me wrong, movies can have messages. They can have important messages. It's not that you don't have the right to do that. But the message they're trying to peddle, which is like Hitler's here, we're all going to die, we're on the verge of no more democracies, that's a fantasy that nobody's buying tickets to. And I mean that in more ways than one. If the whole democracy was on the ballot, we're all going to be in labor camps, Guys, Trump is in his second term, having run for office once, lost his re-election bid.
Wrong.
But he did lose. Okay, think about it this way. Hitler was Hitler. Hitler did not wait until he ran and won, served a full term, ran and lost, waited out a full term, ran again, got indicted 91 times, then got shot, then won again, and then waited till the midterms to start doing the Hitler stuff. I mean, come on.
I think he's got a point.
Yeah, and the point is he's full of But that's the Democrat problem just the same. AOC's out there saying the reason we have a shutdown is because Trump decided he wants to see kids die because they don't have access to health care. Like, it's a verbatim quote from her. We played it all last week. Okay, but it's so disingenuous. And there was a time when it was effective, and I don't doubt that it is for 30% of the electorate. I mean, the Democrats are polling at 30%, so it's working on someone. But for everybody else, we're not taking it seriously anymore. You know, there was a time in this country, if someone called you a racist, it was like scratching the record of the party, and everybody was like, oh, God, that's awful. But now we're sitting there going like, oh, do me next. What am I? Am I a fascist? Am I Hitler? That's hilarious. Go ahead. Hey, Vinny, get over here. The guy who calls everybody Hitler's here. Come on, do Vinny. What is Vinny? Would he be Goebbels? Who would he be? That's what we're dealing with now. But that's why nothing they're doing works. Is because when you try to reduce everything to some issue of race or hatred or corruption of democracy, okay, anybody who's paid attention to the last 4 years in this country knows the Democrats are guilty of everything they're accusing the Republicans of. He just said you're going to lose your democracy because of Trump. Meanwhile, the Democrats literally tried to jail their political opponent. And oh, by the way, when they kicked Joe Biden off the ticket, democracy did not replace him. The donors appointed Kamala Harris, and the voters didn't even get a say. So this idea that Rob Reiner is trying to sell us is just more proof that, you know, I know Hollywood's supposed to be ready for their close-up, but apparently they haven't looked in the mirror in a while based on what he's telling us.